Hi, I'm George Norrie, and welcome to our Coast to Coast AM YouTube channel. Have fun, tell your friends, and share us with everyone. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Coast to Coast AM's mobile app. And always remember to log on to our website at coasttocoastam.com for daily articles, the best paranormal information, and all you need to know about your favorite guests. And now you can become a Coast Insider directly through the Coast mobile app. We welcome our international listeners and even offer a free 2-week trial. So don't delay. Become an insider today. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Karen Dahlman is an author, licensed counselor, spirit communicator. She provides spiritual readings for her clients and also serves as an officer and director of the Talking Board Historical Society. Born with the gifts of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, Karen communicates with sentient beings in the unseen dimensions and uses these gifts with her clients. Her work's mission is pushing the boundaries of consciousness, and her message is to assist humanity in awakening to its greatest potential. We'll be talking about her latest book, When Cats Had Wings, in a moment, on animal communications. Karen.
Good morning, George. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Are you convinced that demons could still come through if it's done the wrong way?
This is what I'm convinced of, and this, in my opinion, is that if you want to bring through something negative, you can, but it has nothing to do with the board. It has to do with yourself. So if you have the fears and you're doing some, different things, trying to work with the energies, if your belief system could bring them in for you, absolutely. But not necessarily because of the board, it's because of yourself.
Before I knew you, we were going to be doing a show on Ouija boards with 3 separate guests.
Uh-huh.
And it was going to be with the experiment with the board and all that. 2 of the guests backed out. The other one said, I'll go ahead and do that. And I decided just to cancel that portion of the show. And I had some irate emails from people who were having pizza parties with their Ouija boards and stuff like that. But I basically backed down because I didn't want anybody to be offended by the Ouija board. But like you say, it's more of the individual than the board, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's just cardboard, it's wood, and I have a glass board, and people have metal boards. That's just a tool. It's ourselves. We're doing all the work. And as we talk this evening about our topic tonight, you're going to hear about how it really is ourselves because, George, a lot of my work, if not most of it now, is off the board, yet I'm still getting amazing messages in other ways.
How did you get involved in the Ouija board?
Well, the Ouija board, see, when I was born, I had these abilities. I didn't quite understand what they were until I got a lot older and could put them into a context. But I had an imaginary playmate, and he wasn't imaginary, but I could see him and other people couldn't. And I learned that I had something ability to see into other dimensions. And a lot of people listening in your audience have something similar, like some weird experiences like that, or imaginary playmate. Well, my mom told me when I was younger, to go to school, I can't tell people I'm talking to somebody who's not there. Now, she wouldn't understand that this being was there, but when I was introduced to the Ouija board, I was able to make that, it was like my lifeline, to make that connection back to the unseen dimension now in very tangible ways as the planchette moved. So it just became an extension of my own abilities and gifts to see things and to channel energies. It just became another way to do it in a practical or a visual, tangible way that people could experience it with me.
Did you get better and better with it as the years went
Absolutely. I mean, this is to do anything good with any you take up a new sport or take up playing an instrument. It really requires a lot of practice. People ask me all the time. They say, I want to channel, I want to use the board, and I say, well, be ready for a lot of I call it the 3 Ps: practice, patience, perseverance. It takes a lot of time to do anything well, and so yes, for me, I was an avid person, a user of the board for channeling because that's what I thought I needed to do. I didn't realize I could just get rid of the board and do this. But it became better and better. I mean, what I mean by that is I started meeting higher and higher beings of consciousness that were just spot on about things in my life and other people's lives. And I started offering readings in the 90s because of the information that was coming through. And it became better because I was working on myself, George. I was taking this seriously, raising my own vibration or frequency and doing like meditation, grounding work, working with light energy. And the more I worked on myself internally, the better the channeling got. It wasn't getting a better board or how many boards I had or that's the only board that works. It was how much I worked on myself. I am truly the instrument of the channeling and what makes the board work. The board becomes my display or theatrics to show tangibly what's happening, but it does require a lot of personal inner work to get this tool to work well. And that's what I did. So, yes, it's gotten better over the years.
Start with your definition, Karen, of channeling. What is that?
Well, channeling is an interesting word. You hear it and you might get all of a sudden like mystical images in your mind, like, oh, you're channeling or a person that's deceased or you're channeling some spirit guide in the ethers. Well, channeling is very common. We do it pretty much every day. Whenever we get an intuitive, like, or a gut feeling, some kind of idea or concept or inspiration, that's channeling. You could be channeling your higher self. You could be channeling your intuition. You could be channeling, even your pets or your plants. I mean, you have an idea, they need something, and you respond to it without even consciously thinking about it. We are constantly channeling that inner self, our greater self, all the time. But in a mystical way, when we look at channeling, it's really more about tapping into things, energies that are outside of our personal awareness. And so that gets into channeling another individual energy separate from me. But here's the key. To channel, you have to work with the whole concept of consciousness and how we're all connected in this, I like to call it a pool or a matrix of energies that we tap into and allows us to reach another sentient being through the method of consciousness. We'll get into this a little bit more, but that's more the mystical channeling. But channeling is a very normal thing to do.
Is it easy to channel?
Well, it's very easy when you're work with your intuition or something doesn't feel right or you walk into a room and you can feel the tension. That's channeling the energies. So that's very easy. It's very natural. But when you start working with energies external to yourself, we get, I don't know how to do that. It does require, I always say, like flipping a switch or clicking into letting go. Letting go and allowing yourself to go almost right brain. I tell people when you channel, you've got to get more right brain creative and get out of your methodical, logical way of thinking that will stop you. You have to kind of go with the flow. So channeling is natural, but yet you've got to let go to go into it and trust the process, because if you go, okay, I'm going to channel my pet, it's like, oh, I don't believe I can do that. Okay, that blocks it right there. That's the logical mind stepping in, left brain saying, this can't be done. It's got to be done this way, or A, B plus equals C. Where I'm saying it's more of a circular feeling. It's spiraling into the energy. It's allowing the energy and trusting what you're getting and playing, having a playful mind about it, which allows you to get better and better at it. Now, can people channel right away? Some people can if you're channeling an external energy, but most people don't, because we're so logical and we're so pragmatic in our lives and so tangible with what we can see that it's hard to believe you could tap into some energy and maybe something you can't see, like extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, the mythological creatures, or even that your animal can communicate with you. That might be too far outside of somebody's awareness or somebody's belief. The whole key here is that you really got to have a belief system that's open to it and is at least curious about it to allow channeling to happen. And then once you're at that space, it does get easier and easier.
When you channel, do you channel to them or do they come to you?
Well, it's basically an idea of reaching and meeting somewhere in the middle in some cases. Other cases, I'm like dialing up a frequency, if you will, almost like the old phones. You dial up your rotary dial and then you do a number and it reaches that person at the end of that number. Well, it's similar to that. the way I dial my frequencies is through my thoughts, it's through my intentions. I know I'm going to work with, let's say, some kind of, let's say, person in the afterlife or after they left this third dimension. I will dial into that person by how I know that person or by what the question is or how I'm trying to reach it. That becomes my intention, my pathway, my gateway to reach it. So it's like dialing up the energy, and that energy comes back and meets me if it's open to doing that. So it's a very it's a very spiritual thing in many cases. But it's based upon intentions and it's based upon my own vibration. So people say, well, how do you reach higher beings of frequency? Like some of the beings that I talk to, I call the guides. That was a progression. I worked through so many different levels of energies till I got to that level. But again, for me to dial them up and get that level, I had to do a lot of internal work on myself, which means letting go of judgment or fears, stepping outside of a box. I was told that this is all that life is, that there's so much more to the unseen eye than we've ever been told. And once I began to step into that and realize that's a possibility, that opened me up to more. So it's kind of a dance we must do with the unseen dimensions and mostly with ourselves. Again, any type of channeling that's happening, whether it's through a medium doing readings or a psychic or somebody reading cards or even doing a pendulum or a Ouija board, talking board, it's like you've got to have the intentions and the beliefs that that tool can work because you're the one that works the tool. The tools don't work without us there. It's us working the tool.
Now, who are the guides that you talk about?
Well, the guides is this group of ethereal beings. They've never been born in a body. The best way to explain it is it's source. It's source wisdom communicating back to us. And so it was a period of, it was about 1992 when I first met the guides. I started the board in 73. So we're talking almost 20 years, about 19 years when I finally met them. They were always here, as anybody could tap into the guides. It's not like they're exclusive to me. It's just a group of beings that knows they are an aspect of source, of God, of all that is. They said the only thing that separates us from you is that we never forgot who we are. You did. And so they don't need to be born in a physical body to go through this whole karmic wheel of life and death. Instead, they already know that they are source. And so they come here to teach us about our own divinity within. As your last guest was talking about consciousness, and he was saying the divine spark resides within everyone, and that's exactly what the guides are here to teach. But they are a collective group of beings. But let me tell you what, I can't see them. It's light. It's pure light in a frequency that our apparatus of our eyes is a part of a spectrum we cannot see. But I can feel them when I channel. That's the other thing beautiful thing about channeling. When you're channeling, it's always positive. If you're channeling, if anything comes through negative, that's you getting in the way. That's fear stepping in. That's lower vibrational energies. But when you're channeling, as I'm talking about the guides, it's unconditional love will fill you up. And that's, that you're tapping into this incredible source of wisdom. And also, it reminds you of your own source of wisdom within.
When you are with the Ouija board, who are you tapping into? Are you tapping into guides?
Yeah, this is who I talk to now. It's called just the guides. They come through every session now, and that's been since 1992. Before that, I was working with all different levels of energies, whether it was the deceased transition people. They don't really like to be called deceased because they really are dead. They're not gone. They're still with us in just another form. So it started there. And then I got to tell you, George, I got to stress, especially to the audience, that this is a process of working on your inner self. The more you work on yourself, learning to ground, learning to use the light within, people call that protection, learning to work with the light energies, learning to feel empowered in your life. As a therapist, I took a lot of trainings. Everything I do with my clients, I did for myself. It just helped me become stronger and stronger in the ability to tap into these energies. But it was a progression. As I started then tapping into my higher self, which is really a part of me that's in me but outside of myself, that's when the world opened up to me. That was in 1989. And talking to my higher self allowed me to reach other levels of consciousness, dialing up the frequencies that I talked about earlier, because I was willing to go further into the unseen dimensions. And so I started meeting the angelic realm. And then I started communicating with extraterrestrials. And then it went into the animal kingdom and so forth. I mean, it's off the charts now. But it's a progression always and how you build up to these beings. But yet, the funny thing is they talk with me, and I can hear them right now. They're saying, we're always with everybody here. Source is always with you, but you've got to be open to hearing it. People talk about praying, to God. And this way, it's like I dial them up and I allow them to respond. I get to sit there and meditate and listen back. But I happen to do it with the tool sometimes of the board. I do it without the tool. I do it after meditation. I do it when I paint my artwork, when I write. It's tapping into that consciousness, that source, and bringing it through me, filling myself with unconditional love and feeling inspired by it all, where information just flows in. It just downloads in.
Seems like you use it for almost everything in your life.
Oh, channeling? Absolutely. Once I tapped into it, I realized, and I'm still learning to even use it in more profound ways, George. It's like I realized that channeling is such a natural thing. Oh, so one of the things I teach a lot about now is how to tap into your higher self. Then your higher self is nothing scary or woo-woo. It's really just a greater part of yourself that exists within our corporeal existence, but yet also exists in its divine existence. We're not separate from it. But once we learn to meet that part of ourselves, I mean, it's always with us, but I should say hear and open to it and allow it, profound things can happen. This gets into the realm of manifestation or into the realm of creation or being inspired. We're human. We're here to live on the earth and grounded and have our ups and downs in life. But what I find that makes it so sweet when you start bringing in the higher self is that you realize you can navigate the uncertainties or the hard times a lot more smoothly than you can when you're not tapped in. So I find if I want to help people in a grand way, it's to really help them tap into their own inner wisdom, their higher self, and that is the spark of divine within.
Have you ever been tricked by a guide?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, if they're tricking me, they wouldn't be a guide. This is where I think people fall into traps here, is that they tap into energy, and it usually is their own fears. And our fears, I got to tell you, what's within us, our thoughts, can influence us emotionally, physically, spiritually. I mean, science has shown that what we think is what we can create within our body. For stress, we start creating stressful issues as a response to it. So it's important to know that our fears can get the best of us, and we can also pull in lower energies. When you tap into the guides or the angelic realm, or even animals, it's a very positive experience. It's highly motivating. It's very exciting. It's energizing. It's unconditional love flowing through you. It's the best way I can explain it. And if you don't have that feeling of this is really elevating my soul, then I wouldn't do it.
Karen, animal communications, how long have you been doing this?
Well, it started back in the mid-90s, early mid-90s. So as I was mentioning earlier, this progression of working with the guides and also the different levels of consciousness I've been able to communicate with, it was a progression. So after I started working with my higher self, I started working with higher realms. When I say higher, it's like a very light, high vibration. I can feel it when I'm channeling them. And then the animals eventually came through, but this is how it went. So I'm with my partner. We're using the board, and we were channeling my angel at the time, and she was giving us messages, and she said, you know what, you're not going to believe this. Now, this is all being spelled out on the board. And I said, okay, well, what? She goes, somebody wants to talk to you. And I go, well, a lot of people want to talk to me on this tool. She said, no, this is very different. I said, okay, bring it on. And so what happened was the planchette changed its direction, and it went a little slower, and it spelled out, Hermes cat, I love you. Now, I had a cat sitting right there, very much alive, and talking to me. And I said, wait a second, my cat's alive and talks to me on this tool? I said, well, you're channeling your cat. Yes, your cat wants you to know how much he loves you. And that was when I realized that you can use this tool to tap into consciousness of those who are alive or beings that are alive. And that's really when I started pushing the boundaries of consciousness even further than I had before. And that's when it starts. I've been doing animal communication for, about 30 years now.
Wow. Now, do you have to own an animal to communicate with one?
No, not at all. In fact, I've done some experiments where I communicate with some wild animals I might have crossed in my path. They don't always necessarily want to communicate. And when you start working with wild animals, what you get is usually an oversoul. It's I would call it an oversoul. It's the kind of the consciousness of the species that will come through. Although some of the wild animals that I've crossed paths with will come through directly as themselves, as that individual. But a lot of times you can get this group consciousness that'll come and be a spokesperson for that certain species. So you can talk to other animals. You can talk to, like I said, wild animals. But you know where it works the best, George, really, when you have that connection with your own pet.
Sure.
I always say start there because that's the easiest way to start with your own pet. 'Cause you already have a connection. You're already receiving information from them. Most of us don't even know that, but yet we're responding to them.
Is there a breed of animal that is a little easier or better than another breed? I mean, is a dog better than a cat or a cat better than a hamster?
Well, in my experience, I've had great results with people that are connected to their pets and me being connected to my pets. So it really depends on the person, the channeler.
And does it determine what the pet is, whether it's a dog, cat?
You mean when they talk to me, can I determine what it is?
I mean, what communicates better, an animal with a dog or a cat?
They all communicate about the same when they have that connection with humans already.
Okay.
So I find that the ones that are in a relationship with humans, that could be horses, that could be dolphins, that could be animals that are around your environment, turtles.
A bird?
Birds, absolutely, yes.
Interesting. Can anyone communicate with an animal?
Well, people are already doing it. And they just say, yeah, I just adore my animal. I adore my dog. And I just know when my dog needs something. And it's more than just reading body language. You just feel it. So that's where channeling starts. That's a natural realm of channeling. We're constantly telepathically sending out messages to each other, and that includes the animals too, and we respond. In fact, I find that the animals are more open to the telepathic messages through channeling as opposed to even coming on the board, because that's an awkward, slow channeling when you can just read their messages in your mind and feel it. So I teach people how to start doing this work, and it starts very subtly, but you really need to sit down with one of your pets and be in their presence with no distractions, and maybe pet them or hold them and just allow whatever comes into your mind and respond to it. You just respond to it out loud or telepathically, but you'll start getting words or thoughts or images, and it just grows from there. But you got to trust the process. It is a process, but that's how channeling works.
What have you learned from animals that you've communicated with?
Well, let me say this. The animals are master teachers. The animals love us unconditionally. They come here to help us grow, help us learn, and especially learn about unconditional love. They are angels in disguise. In fact, Jack told me once, he said, because Jack had a really horrific past when I got him.
And Jack's the cat, right?
Jack's the cat, my co-author. And he said to me once, he said, although I was broken by abuse, he said, you always saw me as an angel, as your angel. And it was true. But it's really a process of getting to be with your animal, letting your animal trust you. And if you have a pet, they're probably already trusting you, and taking time with them. Sometimes the animals think it's weird. Like, why would you even want to channel me? You automatically respond to my needs, especially people that have cats.
And Jack has passed on, right?
Well, Jack has passed on since 2019, but he started telling me he wanted to write a book in 2015.
Gee,
around that time.
I mean, how did he say this to you? Yo, Karen.
Well, George, it's funny because it just sounds so funny saying it. But the thing is this. When I got him, like I said, he was so broken in spirit. He would sit in a corner for 10 months and just shake. He just went through some horrific abuse, and he really taught me patience. Here's the master teacher teaching me through his mishap. So he's scared. He was beaten and kicked, and when I brought him in, he would just sit there and shake, but I didn't give up on him. I was patient with him. I let him do his thing. And then he started coming through. I could channel him through the board. That's where he really started talking to me. And he started telling me some of his stories. But when he saw me write 3 books and I had them published, and he said, you know what? He came to me and says, I can write a book. I said, okay, what would you write about, Jack? He said, well, my story. And then one day, George, this is how this book started. I was sitting there on the floor petting him because I always go to where he was. And I would just sit there with him on the floor and pet him. And he said, he goes, I have a story to tell you. And what I heard in my head was this, clear as a bell. This is what he said. He goes, cats are angels in furry disguise. Can I tell you the story when cats had wings? That phrase came into my head, and I went, what? Where did that come from? And Jack then said, that's the book I want to write. I was like, okay. So through a process of working with him, like telepathically, as that just happened, I realized he wanted to work that way, and also channeling through the board with spelled out messages, he started telling me a story. He wanted to tell me his abuse from the past. Then he started telling me a story about him wanting to play with kids and not being able to go outside. And then this story emerged. He had 3 versions of the story, and every time the story got a little better, it wasn't so dark, because the story that he first told me was all the abuse he suffered. And then he worked through it, and it took a process of years. But he kept telling me, he says, I'm not going to write the whole thing. I need your help. He said, I'm going to be your writing coach. I was like, what?
Now, this abuse was abuse that happened way before you had him, right?
Oh,
obviously.
Gosh, yeah. Oh, obviously, yes. Years before I got him. I got him when he was the age of 3, but he went to a home that was just very abusive. I don't need to go into details, but it wasn't good.
I get
and
it.
his half brother was there too, and so I'm thinking I'm going to rescue them, which I did. I brought them home. They came to my home.
Both of them?
But both of them, yes, both of them. And they were both at work. They were work. They were a big piece. They were definitely work. Let's just say that there was a lot of work I had to put into them. But I'm appreciative to have that opportunity, because through that process, like, Jack really taught me about patience, and he taught me about unconditional love. No matter what shows up, you can love something unconditionally. And Panzer is right along there too. But Jack was the one that was the most abused when I got him. So it's a beautiful story. And we always say, George, oh, I'm going to go rescue an animal. I'm going to go rescue him. Well, we do. We help them out. We take them out of bad situations. We feed them. We take them out of no-kill shelters or off the streets or whatever. And it's a mutual thing. But they will give of themselves. So they'll give you so much love in return for that, to teach us lessons in life. It's just it's a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And that's what evolved into the story When Cats Have Wings.
I'm going to describe the cover, and you'll tell us about the illustrator, Maz Farzan. Mm-hmm. When Cats Had Wings, and it's an illustration of 5 cats floating over land and clouds, and they all have wings and halos, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of angelic, as you said.
Yeah, so this basically the story is an illustrated story. It's beautifully illustrated. I didn't do the work. I hired an illustrator that I thought really could convey the message that Jack was giving me, and also the way I wrote the story. So it's an illustrated story.
It's a small book. It's not big.
Yeah, it's a children's book, but it's really for the young at heart. So mostly my clients are adults that buy this book because of the story. I'm telling you, anybody out there, you read it, you're going to cry. Just be prepared, get the Kleenex out. And it's not because it's a sad story, because it's a touching story. It's so much about the unconditional love that we share with animals. In this case, Jack wanted to be the main character who's telling this story. It's told from Jack's point of view, and he talks about the power of unconditional love that is shared between the feline race and humanity. And it's just, George, this was his story. He told me this story. And then here's the magical thing, if this isn't magical enough, here's a magical thing that happened. So before I finally figured out what story we're going to write, because Jack's like, I told you several stories. Let's pick the best one. I need you to help me write it. I said, Jack, do I write it in like a story format? Do I write it in poetry? He goes, you're going to know. So I was talking to Jack one night, and I was channeling him on and off the board. And I went to bed, and I woke up in the morning with this phrase going through my mind. And the phrase was this: not too long ago, but within your distant past, lived a hierarchy of angels known as the winged kitty cats. I went, bingo, Jack. He had presented it to me in a dream. I woke up with it, and after that, I channeled it. The story flowed out of me based on what he's already told me, and the the prose, this poetic prose, flowed out of me within like an hour, hour and a half. It was amazing. And then that's when I tightened it up and worked on with an illustrator to capture the visual images that Jack was providing me.
This was a story about Jack as an angel, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes, Jack's an angel, and he talked about how all the cats are angels and how they're angelic because they really watch over us. They really help us. As I said, they are our master teachers. They are our guides, and they're here in form, in physical form, alive. See, this is the key to the story, is that we are all each other's angels from time to time, regardless of what species you are. I mean, I know people that, you know, they may have birds or fish or turtles or horses or snakes, reptiles, and they feel like that's their love. They love that animal so much because that animal's teaching them to reach into the depths of themselves and express it. People are a little harder to always have unconditional love. You know, we have our emotions and we're up and down, where when we're with an animal, we can just almost just allow it to come out of ourselves. And that's the beauty of this story. It talks about how the storyline goes where these angelic cats love humanity so much, they're willing to leave their beautiful habitat in the heavens and join us on Earth.
What are we tapping into with our pets when we communicate with them? Because a lot of people, like you mentioned, who own dogs or cats are into this stuff.
Yeah, because they open up that part of ourselves that can care, that can love, that can be free. Reckless abandon. They can be free to be themselves with their animals. There's no love like that. I mean, yes, we have love for our spouse and our children and our friends, and that's beautiful too. But the animal opens up something playful, innocent, young within us. They're funny. They're fun. They make us laugh. They can be hard to work with in terms of like Jack. Jack was very difficult. I had to get beyond my ego saying, oh, I want this cat to sit on my lap. No, that was up to him, what he was going to do. But 10 months later, he did get up on my lap. But it took a while for that to happen. But it allowed me to open up to this experience of loving something so much that it transforms the relationship. And that's what animals do. They transform our relationships with ourselves and with the animal itself. It makes us into better human beings because they teach us to do that.
Does the animal sometimes channel a human?
Well, that's an interesting thought. So Jack, who said, I'm going to be your writing coach. So when I think in a sense, when he gave me this story, and George, I was never thinking about writing.
Now, did he give you this story after he passed or before?
He gave it to me in tidbits over a period of about 7 years.
And then he passed.
Tidbits. And then he gave it to me when he was very much alive. And then he gave it to me. At the end of it was when he already transitioned, and that's when the poem part started flowing out of me. So in that sense, he kind of channeled me. He kind of put the channeling into me through that dream. So so in a way, me talking about it right now is me being his voice. So in a way, I guess he's channeling through me.
You miss him?
Yes, of course I miss him. But, you know, I've had many cats. I have 2 right now. And I do miss him. I'll tell you I miss Jack a lot because he was just so dear, so broken, but yet so strong. The strength of that cat is amazing. And, you know, the interesting thing, too, is I always felt sorry for him in some regards because of the abuse he suffered. But after he transitioned, my other cat, which is his half-brother, who transitioned a year before he did, came back and said, I know you always felt badly about Jack's background, but the reality is he's a very strong being. He's a strong soul, and he came to help heal. That was his role in life. And he said, now he wrote a book with you that you helped him pen, or he helped you pen, and it's out there in the world touching people right and left. George, I get so many letters written to me, emails, calls. People buy the book and then they'll read it and come back and say, I need 5 more for my friends.
Wow.
Because it's that touching of a story. And I can't take credit for it. I can only say I put it into poetry.
Are you getting more response to the book than Ouija boards?
My Ouija board book sells really well. Put it that way. But I think what happens is people wanted to know more about how I was channeling animals.
In most cases, when an animal is communicating with a human, what is it trying to tell us?
Well, I think, let's be practical. They want to tell us about their needs. Feed me, take me out. I need this, I need that. But this is the part that most of us don't think about. They are rescuing us. They're taking care of us. And so I have a lot of people that write to me, too, about when at the end of a pet's life, making that hard decision where it might be euthanizing them or, saving their integrity and or helping them through a transition. And I think that the biggest thing that pets would want all of us to know is that this is what they've told me. I've had many pets tell me this, and just many animals say this that are, living close in human existence, like in their home or something. They'll say, I've taken care of you all these years, and you've given back to me as well. At the last minute that I need you the most, you made the best decision that you can, and I entrust you to make that decision for me, whatever that decision is. There's no right or wrong way. But I know there's so many people that feel very bad or guilty about it. Bottom line is the animals trust you to take care of them and give them all that you can, whatever that means. It's always a very personal choice. But they want us to know that the love they taught us to have for them allows us to share that love for them even in their final hours.
Where do people get the book When Cats Had Wings?
It's available on Amazon.com. Also, it's in hard copy as well. Barnes & Noble has that. You can get it in paperback, both places, Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Tell us about the illustrator, Maz Farzan.
Yeah, so this is a gentleman I found online. I looked at his portfolio. I interviewed several people. He immediately wanted the project, and he talked about his vision for it. So let me just look at it, read the prose. And I explained to him my cat wrote the story, and this is what's going on. And he was really excited about it, and his vision was probably even better than I could have envisioned it. And by the way, I have spoken to Jack since his book's been out, and he's thrilled. He's thrilled about it. He's thrilled that he is now considered an author. If you go to Amazon.com, you'll see his name, Jack the Cat, listed along with my name, and of course, Maz Farzan. He's just a fabulous illustrator. And the books, you guys, I'm just amazed the images. It fills the whole page. And it's brightly colored. I mean, George, you've seen it.
I do. I've got it right in front of me right here.
Yay. That's great.
When Cats Had Wings. You had fun doing this?
It was amazing. I had a blast. I never set out to write a children's book. As you know, I write a lot of nonfiction books about spirituality, metaphysics, channeling, the Ouija board, spirits, and this was so different. And so Jack is right. He is a writing coach. He had me go outside the box of what I would normally write, and then also to get the illustrator and to even put it into this prose. I've never written a whole book that's nothing but a poem. So it's risky when you do that, but somehow it just works. It's because I had help. I had divine help through Jack and my higher self putting this story together, and that to me was just worth it. It's precious and priceless. And I got to tell you, George, even though I'm co-author in this book, when I read it, I still get a teary eye because it's so touching about the unconditional love we share with our pets. So yeah, I love doing it, and I love the fact that it's out there for people to also experience that.
I love the opening line of the book from Jack, who simply says, "They say we have 9 lives. I say phooey. We have one, and it's everlasting within your heart and mine." Jack.
Yes, that's a quote from Jack.
I love that.
They say cats have 9 lives. Well, he had 1 life with me. That's it. And now he's going to move on. And, animals have souls, too. And they do have an afterlife. And I'm still in communication with him.
Do they reincarnate?
They can. Yes, they do. In fact, one time Panzer told me when he first transitioned and after he came back and started speaking to me again on the other side, I said, well, Panzer, are you going to come back and reincarnate to me? He said, no, I'm thinking about becoming a silly dog or a silly, smelly dog.
Huh.
I said, what? So what happens is animals can reincarnate and come back to you from before into your life again as another animal. So people will find they'll get a new animal that's very similar in many ways, but there's always a different nuance. Although it might be the same soul, the thing is it's still a new life and a new animal in a way that has a new personality. And so people write to me and tell me their experiences with that as well because that happens. It hasn't happened with my animals yet. But I have close people to me that has happened to them with their animals, and there's all these synchronistic things that line up when these pets come back to them. It's amazing.
All right, let's go to the phones. First-time caller Pedro is with us in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Hey, Pedro, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, George. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen. My question is, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot with this too much, but what's the most profound thing you have asked of the board? And I'm talking along the lines of, like, you know, who is God, aliens, or maybe even if the Earth is really flat.
Right. I love this question because this is where I'm pushing boundaries of consciousness with the guides. I want to know. I want to know. I want to explore. I want to understand more about the world. We'll never have all the answers. But how the guides work, it's more like the Socratic method. They'll give you an answer, but it's always kind of like a riddle or a question back. So we learn to think for ourselves. So I've had some really profound communications, such as like the building of the pyramids. Who did that? Such as how do we get our technology? Did it come from extraterrestrials? I've had some really interesting things come through. Now, that's more along the lines of what you just asked me, but I got to tell you, Pedro, probably the most profound things that come through the board have to do with ways we view ourselves within the world, remembering that we are a spark of the divine. And the guides always give examples of how that is and how that works in our life, and it's true and tested the stuff they tell me. Here, you'll like this, George. Just earlier today, I was using the Ouija board with my partner. I haven't used the board in a while, but we were sitting down and working it, and I did communicate with Jack and a few other beings. But I find that you can really receive enlightening information about the nature of the universe, about the nature of life, about your own personal life. But let me say this too, Pedro. If they give you answers and say, do this, do that, that's what's next, that's nothing of a guide. That is like a trickster, or that's just energies that are coming through that has nothing to do with enlightening, help you to find the light within. And so I find that's how you know the difference between a really good, integrated message and one that you can really hang your hat on and enjoy and learn more about yourself, as one that just tries to dominate or control or make you feel poorly. So, and that, I'm not saying that necessarily comes from energies outside of ourselves. As I said before, we have fears, and those are inner energies that we can also manifest in this process of communicating. But yeah, there's so many profound things. And I do write about quite a few of those, Pedro, in my book, The Spirits of Ouija, and also in my third book, The Spirit of Alchemy. That is where I really start sharing those profound messages and how it's affected me in my life.
Wasn't the case of the little boy that the movie The Exorcism was truly based of, even though they had a woman in it, Linda Blair?
Right. It was based on a boy.
Little boy from Baltimore.
Yes. But The Exorcist house is actually in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, I know that.
Right?
It was done at the Election Brothers Hospital. I almost interviewed one of the two priests that were involved in that, but he passed on. But in this case with the exorcism, didn't the little boy dabble with a Ouija board?
Well, the story goes that his aunt had a board and was working with him on it. Now, this is the deal. When you're working as a child and you have any fears, and even that the aunt, I don't know what the backstory is. I mean, was there psychological illness? Was there mental health issues? Was there a lot of fear, or was there not? I'd like to know. I don't know. Yeah, right.
Next up, let's go to Elisa in Oregon. Welcome to the show on the Wildcard line. Hi, Elisa.
Hi, George. How are you doing?
Good. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Karen.
Hi,
okay, this is a little bit of a complex situation, so I'll try to run through it pretty quick. I recently have begun caring for, feeding, watering this once loved, beautiful pet of somebody, this cat that was abandoned. And it's almost feral now. And the management where I live has written me up 3 times, violation of the lease agreement for, quote, feeding the wildlife. I said, no, it's doing the right thing. I can't stand by and watch this animal starve to death when I know I could have done something about it. And they won't let the Cat Coalition team come out and set a trap. And one more time, and I risk eviction. However, I'm torn between it. Then I've run ads for months now. It's not anybody's animal. I just want the cat to be able to come inside or to just to be safe. I know there's a lot of other animals, wild animals, but we got coyotes and hyenas and all kinds of things here, and I'm concerned for the cat's well-being because I'd like to take it in and adopt it if possible.
Would they let you keep it if you could?
If I bring it inside.
If you brought him in.
I already have one that was feral, and I can't put him at risk without knowing that this cat could have leukemia or
Right.
kitty AIDS.
Can you find a family for it?
I can't catch it. They won't let me entrap it. The cat's been eating out of dumpsters, and
they won't even let you catch it.
No. Mm-mm.
What does she do, Karen?
Well, what if they catch it? Can't you go in and adopt it after it's caught? If some the animal control shelter came out and then you can go in and get it after they captured it, couldn't you do that?
Yeah, but they won't let them put the traps on the property, on the apartment complex property.
Let me go deeper with this, okay? So that's like we're trying to problem solve and troubleshoot with you. But let me talk a little about the evolution of the soul, and this goes for animals too. We think we understand what their purpose is, or we think we understand what they're doing and what that means, and we may not fully understand somebody's plight in life. I don't mean this lightly at all, because sometimes it's a matter of what you're talking about, where you may not be able to bring the cat in. It may come to that, or the cat goes elsewhere, or it moves on. Or maybe it becomes, I hate to say it, food for a coyote. It happens. I think the important thing here is that you are really sharing your love. The animals teaching you about this love, and obviously you love animals. I mean, I can tell it in your voice and how you feel about this cat. And let's say you can't bring the cat or eventually get the cat to come in or even rescue this cat, as you're saying, the cat is helping you. You don't understand what's going to happen to the cat. We may not know, but the cat is helping you reach out and touch you so deeply emotionally. You're doing everything you can to help it. And that, in a sense, is a beautiful relationship right there. Now, I hope the cat gets rescued, but if this cat doesn't, know that you are like the animal kingdom loves you because of the energy you're willing to exert for this animal and how it's helping you internally, just the beauty of your soul.
He parks across the aisleway in the hallway and sits outside my door. But he's got very territorial and attacks the other tenants' dogs as they head down towards the elevator to take their dogs out, and so that's caused problems for me with other tenants complaining the cat what the cat's doing to their dogs because I fed the cat.
What makes a cat so mean, Karen?
Well, like she said, it's territorial. This cat has been. It's in a harsh environment. It's like dog eat dog, no pun intended, but it's that kind of environment. I mean, it's not that they're mean. They're being what a cat does. They're being what they instinctually
survival, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's an alley cat. That's what they do. They fight. It's not to put shame or blame on or judge them because of our own parameters of how we think we should behave. It's that a cat's going to be a cat. A rattlesnake's going to be a rattlesnake. You got to look at these animals. They're going to be themselves. Doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're just being defending or territorial, instinctually who they are and what they need to be, and that experience.
Next up, let's go to Steve in Minnesota. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you for the program. What a lovely topic. Anyway, I'm just wondering if you've read, I think, one of the most lovely books that I've ever read, The Art of Racing in the Rain by Stein. It's about the story of a race car driver who has this golden retriever, and the story is told by the dog, and he's a race car driver, and it's and his dog, I'm not going to take the punchline wrong, but his dog reincarnates. And we have some reading groups, and I think it's one of the most lovely books that I've ever read in my life. And it's written by, I think it's Scott Stein, and the dog's name is Enzio, and it's an absolute must-read, The Art of Racing in the Rain.
All right, we'll look that up.
I wrote that down.
Go ahead,
Thank
Karen.
you for sharing that.
Karen, since you've been communicating with animals, what has been the strangest communications you've gone through?
Well, here's a strange experience. So I had in my backyard, this was when I was living in California, I had a rattlesnake come into, where I lived was like communities. I mean, there was some greenbelt areas.
A rattlesnake?
A rattlesnake. It climbed over my wall. I had a little pond, and it was going to the pond and was drinking out of it. And I open the door. Start walking out, and I see the snake. I go right back in, but it's actually on my Facebook page from a few years ago, and it was shocking. The snake was probably 6 feet long. Well, knowing me, I like to channel animals, so I immediately called my partner up and said, "You've got to come over here. Let's channel with the board." That's always the easiest way for me to channel in the beginning before I go into telepathy. And the snake said, and this is what I was saying about the cat that Lisa called in about. The snake said, "I am a snake. I will do what snakes do. I come to this watering hole often. I've been coming here for 8 years." And you said all this stuff, and it said, "But when I coil up, don't get too close because I will strike." Because that's what snakes do. So we can't be silly about this. We've got to really honor the animal for what the animal is and not think because you can channel it and talk to it or you get messages from it that all of a sudden you can go pick it up and pet it. It's just experiences like that where the animal will really show who it is. I had a group of owls that used to come in my backyard too in California. And they would fly in at night, and I decided I really want to tap into them and see if I can get messages. And sometimes when you get to wild animals, they don't always come through as easy. But these owls came through immediately and said, "I am a mean eating machine. I will eat anything that I can grab." And it's like, so that's what I do best, something like that. I was like, okay. So it's not. You're not always going to get, this is beautiful, love me, unconditional love. You're going to hear what this animal is and what they want to communicate. And I find that always fascinating.
Rhonda in Omaha, Nebraska, welcome to the show. Hey, Rhonda, welcome to the program.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. Go ahead.
I have recently lost my cat of 18 years. And I would just like to know how I can get her to communicate with me that she's okay.
All right. She's got a minute to go there. Karen, go ahead.
Okay, I can tell you real quickly, the best way when you're not used to doing this work I'm talking about is in your dreams. Invite your pet to come to you in your dreams. And your pet may come looking a little differently or larger or smaller. Something will be peculiar, but you'll know it's your pet, and let her come to and talk to you in that regard. Just keep asking for her to come that way. And then the other thing, a lot of people find that their animals will jump up on bed and they'll turn around and there's no animal there. I've had that happen many times. So be patient with it and keep asking for her to visit you.
How many times do you have to do that, though, before see some
sometimes for me,
results?
It happens pretty quickly. Like with Panzer, when he transitioned within 3 days, he came back to me in a dream. And I said, "I want to hold you one more time." And he jumped up on my lap. And so it takes time. Some people don't have results for 3 months, 4 months, but if you hang in there, something will happen. Or you may even just get a vision, or you feel like you see your animal out of the corner of the eye. So just be open to all the ways they can come to you. It's not what we dictate, but it's what they're able to do and how we're able to receive them.
And how angelic are these cats anyways, Karen?
They're very angelic. In fact, all animals are. All animals here are here to help us really grow in love. I mean, you think about even the animals in the wilds and stuff, the things they go through, and it's almost like they're showing us they're showing us what they're willing to go through, and I don't want to get in graphic or anything like that, willing to go through for us to wake up. The animals help us awaken to love, awaken to care, compassion, awaken to needs outside of ourselves. It's really a beautiful relationship in how they help us. They're angelic. They're very angelic.
Let's go east of the Rockies. Kim is with us in Vermont. Welcome to the show. Hello, Kim.
Hello, George. Hello, Karen.
Hey there.
Hi, Kim.
Our first week of April, I was robbed. 2 people broke into my house.
Oh, geez.
And my cat, he's very stressed out. He's licked all the hair off his stomach. And what did they do to him or any of my other? I have got a dog and 2 cats. Did they hurt my animals? Can you tell?
Were you home?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm getting. And I'm not saying I'm tapping into your cat right now, but just what came to me, and I think it's more from the guides. They're saying it's more about the stress it caused in your life, that your cat's very sensitive, very attached to you, and it's expressing and experiencing the stress that you have from the situation. So I would definitely say look at that first. I don't get the sense that they did anything like physically to this cat, but it's more like our animals really get connected to us, and they really play off of our energies. So look at that and let your cat know that things are calm. Now, I got to tell you, having said that, Jack the cat, who had all kinds of stress in his life, started licking his fur off too, and it was the stress of, I guess, the abuse, and I was stressed out about him too. But once I changed his diet and got him off of chicken and any kind of filler or anything, they eat real clean food, but then his fur came back. So look at diet too, but I feel like it's really the stress that it causes. Your cat's so attached to you.
Does a cat stress out more than a dog, Karen?
No, it could be. It's the same. It could be the same. It just which animal is more, more. I don't know what the word I'm trying to think of, but more in tune with you. Maybe they're going to play off those feelings more. All the animals play off it in some way, but some are a little bit more sensitive. Jack was very sensitive. He played off of feelings a lot.
Let's go to Pete in North Carolina. Hello, Pete. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Nighthawk. How you doing?
Good, Peter. Thank you.
Hey, quick question for Karen. My bird's about to hatch eggs.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's like a pregnant one. She got real bitchy and real irritable. And how do I communicate with her?
Oh, well, I don't blame her for being, a little tense. This is a tense time to be giving birth. The best way to communicate with her is making her feel comfortable. Show her through your actions. I want everybody to know that not just having that dialogue that I might get when I channel on the board or telepathically, but if you can send messages to her, and the best way to send messages to your pet, so I want everybody to hear this, especially you, Pete, send them messages, visual images of what it was like for her to be calm or supportive. It may be the images of her nest, her roost being really comfortable, or send her images of just healing light. So if you can think of ways that you feel like she'll respond well when your bird was actually not so tense and anxious, as she's, I don't blame her for feeling that way, actually. But if you could send images to her and sit there in a calm space and give them to her and give her space, that's the best way to talk to your animals in the beginning. And she's talking to you now. She's even telling you this is painful, this is stressful. So send her those loving energies and give her space, whatever you feel like she needs. Listen and feel. A lot of times animals will speak to us not just with words, but mostly through images and feelings. So people that have an animal that might be sick, if you feel it in your stomach, go to the stomach, see if there's something wrong with your animal. In this case, your animal's about to give birth to these eggs. You just want to give her comfort. Send her images of comfort if you can.
All these cats that had their wings, angelic wings, were they in another life?
Well, we'll have to ask Jack that story. But I got to tell you, George, it was really interesting. When Jack came to me with the story, I'm thinking, because this is interesting, this is weird. What's up with this, the wings? And then I started doing research, and as I said, throughout antiquity, many cultures showed the feline species with wings. So is this reality? Is this mythology? I often think the mythological characters we have in our fairy tales or through different cultures are actually real beings, whether it's interdimensional, out there, extraterrestrial, ultradimensional. So I believe there's some truth to that.
Let's go to Allison in Florida. Welcome to the show. Hi, Allie. Go ahead.
Hi. I am loving your show.
Thank you.
And I live by myself, and I don't know really, I don't have any friends or family where I live. And there's this cat that lives a block away from me. There's a lot of cats in my area, actually. And there's this cat that has he has a great home. But his mom, works, so he comes down and hangs out with me. I call it his spa day. Comes out and hangs with me, and he gets all kinds of love. And he's the only connection I have. But he comes and goes. He comes to my house and he leaves. I'm sorry, not my house, rental house. Uh-huh. I have no home, and I really think I'm near the end of my life, and I just kind of wonder, he's a great cat. Why he comes around other than the obvious. He gets food and he gets combed and brushed, and He's a tabby.
He's
know,
got
so
the life of Riley. That's why he comes around, huh? What do you think, Karen?
He gets pampered. But I have
absolutely.
I cannot.
Allison, you know what? Let me ask this question. I think you're going to answer this question yourself. How does he leave you feeling? How do you feel when he's there, and how does he leave you feeling?
Incredibly joyful and incredibly sad, because every day, every time, hours and hours throughout the day, he will leave me. He has to leave me. He's not mine. He's not. I don't mean mine like possessive. Mm-hmm. I can never get too attached because I will lose him.
Well, you know what's beautiful is he comes and checks in on you on the timing of his own, or when the timing's right for your soul. I mean, there's so much interplay when you start working with the consciousness of all living beings. We interact with each other at the moment when we need it the most. Yeah, life has its bittersweet moments, right? So the cat comes, it's joyful. When he leaves, it's sad. But yet he comes to you. He found you out of all the animals and all the people, I should say souls that could come to you. This cat comes. This cat is an angel. This cat is coming to check on you. And it's a friend. It's a dear friend. And you are a dear friend to that cat.
How sensitive are animals, Karen?
Animals are extremely sensitive, psychic if you want to call it that, because they work with their instincts. They are always aware. They can hear usually better than us. They can see better than us. They can smell better than us. So they have this range of the spectrum that they can work within more than we can. Many animals can see spirits. They can see when other visitors are here. They sense, like there's animals that sense epileptic seizures coming upon, or some kind of sickness or cancer. I mean, these animals are very, very sensitive. So pay attention to your animals. You know, we were talking about the animal that's Kim shared, but that's, you know, licking off its fur. That's a sensitive animal who's playing off the emotions of what went down in that house. So, yeah, they're very sensitive.
If a parent's child comes to them and says, Mom, Dad, I want a Ouija board for Christmas, what do you do?
Well, when do you think I got my Ouija board, my very first one?
Probably for
Santa
Christmas,
Claus.
yeah.
Yeah, Christmas. And that's what I did. I was 8 years old, came to my parents, told them how cool this tool was, what I was doing with it, and they weren't against it. They just thought it was a game, so Santa Claus brought it to me. So this is what I say. And what I would say, if your child comes to you and you're not sure what you think about this tool, or maybe you're against it, maybe you're for it, just still, no matter what it is, have a conversation and say, what is it you know about this tool, and what is it that you want to do? And they just may have a curiosity because they see it on TV, or maybe they want to scare themselves. You get to decide, but the big thing here is that you get to have a conversation.
Well, that's the most important thing. Karen, thank you so much. When Cats Had Wings.
The Coast mobile app is now available for download on iPhones and Android devices. You can become an insider directly through this app. This is a great option for our international listeners, and new users will also receive a free 2-week trial.